Unpacked with a Twist, episode 7, Cheer Challenge. Let's get into it, man.
This is going to be the best one yet because we've got a guest.
We have a guest, and we have a lot to talk about because something I've been asking for, something social media has been asking for, something we have it, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk to our guest. And for those of you watching, we've yet to have a guest, and we think we talked to you last week about having a guest. The one thing we didn't talk about particularly, though, is I've never had a guest on this particular platform that we use. So bear with us. You're gonna see this a little different this week, but we're gonna talk to Peggy Albers. Peggy, for those of you who maybe just this be your first episode, maybe you're just now finding out about Lakefront Empire. Peggy is one of the main agents featured on the show. Peggy is a lifelong lake resident for the most part. We can talk about maybe why she wasn't at the lake for a little bit. She's been more than willing to have that conversation with folks. And so I'm excited. Jeff, what about you, man?
Man, I'm more excited because I've been known not to pull any punches on my questions. So I just hope Peggy's ready, man. We all know you're the politically correct one, and I'm not. So we know if anybody pisses her off, which one of us it's going to be.
You know, I am bound by the realtor code of ethics, and I'm just all around a nice guy. So,
but here's the deal. And just for those of you that don't know us, other than on this show, if we go to a bar, I'm picking a fight because Ramsey's got my back, not because I can fend for myself. Just in case you're wondering.
Oh yeah, I don't. We were just actually talking about fights in bars in another video that I was recording, but that's a story for another day. No, let's tell everybody. Let's read the canned HGTV explanation of this show. So they called it Cheer Challenge. Gerardo's clients want a lakefront house with enough practice space for 4 cheerleading daughters. Sierra works with an engaged couple with expensive tastes, and first-timer Gabriella tries to impress her clients with a unique dome house. Peggy!
Hey, guys!
Welcome.
What is going on? Welcome.
You know, just running around, trying to move, trying to run a business, trying to catch up on Lakefront Empire.
Well, we can't thank you enough for being here.
You guys are just the rock stars for real. I've had fun watching you.
Well, thanks for checking it out. This is fun, and we are getting to the end of season 1, and I think we're gonna continue this with some other fun things. So I'm excited to kind of keep doing this and add some more fun to it. So thank you.
We do have some opinionated people, don't we?
Yeah, we could do
you
like
two shit disturbers.
Hey, I just read what other people write, and then try to kill them with kindness. So
I see.
And I just try to piss people off.
I tell all my friends, just be quiet. You don't need to defend me, but yeah, they just crazy. It's been crazy.
You know, Peggy, the greatest quote came from today's episode where Gabriella said, she's got a lot of energy, so I'm just going to sit back and let her do all the talking and listen. So I was thinking to myself, we should probably just sit back and let you do all the talking here because you are the star of this show. Let's just cut through the fluff. You're the star.
Well, it just worked out that way. I was blessed. I think with Sierra, having a destination wedding and just being busy, and Justin and Jonas, I don't think anybody realized what it was going to entail. And because I'm blessed enough to have a full team that my office can semi run efficiently without me helped. So I made myself available. I made myself an asset and just kind of won by default.
Well, I personally think that you represented the lake well. I am a
that
fan.
there could be of course, that's why I guess everybody wants to be the writer and the producer and the star, because it just makes it easier that way. I mean, here we filmed for months and months with people that know you, but then it goes to a studio and it gets cut by people that don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, there was 100, ways that I wish it would have done different. Like, you have no rhyme or reason, why they wouldn't pick these clients and that you would pick a stranger, or why that you would say that you would write a contract, and then didn't follow up with, you didn't. And so I think people like the full story. They don't like an open-ended book. And so I think that added to already the frustration of, I think what somebody say that, man, I wouldn't use that Peggy Albers, 5 shows and all she sold was a boat. She's got to be the worst realtor ever. And you're like, I can't believe she showed that house, and I'd fire her drug ass in a minute, And so that's really the frustrating part, because I could see the difficulty with the production. I mean, here they rolled in 14 people and it was like, okay, game on, call all your clients. What is their story? I mean, you're going through they let us go back 2 years so that they could refilm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they let us go back 3 years for my little boat people who are still at Margaritaville.
We need to have them on.
They are just super, super, super cool. They really are. And that they jumped in and to help. And, these people, it only took a few minutes on the air, but it took 3 days. Like, people had to give up 3 days of their life to help.
Right.
For a 1 minute segment, basically.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's how, and it's on. Here's the deal, Peggy, and I can speak to this as somebody who's been leaning into social for 10 years now. And it's very easy for people. And I think this now, and clearly you have thick skin, and I applaud you because you've been basically set up on a platter to just be crucified. And, right. and the bullshit thing is people, trolls, I'll call them, that they have nothing better to do with their life, that they come on social media to cut other people's down because they probably have some insecurity within their own life, and it makes them feel better. And so I applaud you. You've been tasked with an impossible job, and although as a consumer I wish there was a lot of things they would change, it's not your fault. You're just doing what you were told. They cut it up however they needed to cut it up, and the storylines are lacking.
You guys was because you just didn't know. When I saw like the first episode, even though I just didn't think it should have been blurted out there, I felt the crew really did a great job. Some of them houses were rough and like it was aggravating, but they made them beautiful. That was my biggest concern, is they wouldn't hurt people's feelings, wouldn't hurt people's properties. Like everybody that I had, I made it very clear, because they said, okay, do you like it? And, the people would say, yeah, well, what would you like to change? We'll say that. We'll try saying it like this, try saying it like that. And I made it very clear that however they said something, to say it constructively. Mm-hmm. Because if we get a if we get a second season, we're going to need help on these houses. And the last thing people are going to want to do is let us in your house if you're just going to be an ass.
Yeah.
That would be the hard part. You know as well as I do. And the thing that's cool that I don't think we can explain and really make people understand. You and I know this, Peggy, like, when people walk in the door, if they're going to even consider buying it. Right? We've been doing this long enough. And then if you were to add the transparency and the real feelings to come out, and we already hear, and you worry about cameras and sound and all the things that get talked about people's houses. But like, if I were selling my house and then on national TV, somebody's like, you picked the most god awful carpet and those countertops suck. Like, it is tough. So let me ask you this, and we'll get into some more stuff. But the folks that produce the show, were many of them familiar with the lake, or were they brought in?
Nobody had been here. And I basically opened up. I mean, they lived at Tantera for 2 months. And I would cook everybody meals, because nobody had a home cooked meal or have spaghetti or something. But I kind of made it a point to make my home the home base. And at first they started out at the Encore, and you might as well, I'm right next door, come where you can have a beautiful lake and have, some lunch. So, and I'm gone for the day. Excuse me, I don't know what happened, but I was gone. So, one of the things with my past, you're so used to different people, different culture, like you had no privacy. Your life was open, so to where they thought it was so strange that I would just open up my home to 10 strangers and say, see you later, help yourself to the fridge and whatever. And I'll try to make it back by 5. Was cool. So I kind of made myself important. And then just by always being available, and them liking my story, and of just like, oh my gosh, can you believe, like what you have accomplished? Like, have you sat back and understand, that most people in 8.5 years, can't accomplish, what you have accomplished, and kind of almost like a poster child for transformation. I believe HGTV's intention, to get that point out, didn't really come across. I hate the fact that it says at the end, that I rule the world. Like, we had been filming and there were boats following us, and I was just yelling, like, to us, it was just like whatever was going right that day was going right. But I mean, like, of just wanting to kill you, not like just mad at yourself for being like, if I'm not so blessed, I love the I mean, like, of all the things, I guess I was feeling very empowered that day. But running of successful businesses and employing $300,000 worth of employees, at that moment, being on the lake, with HGTV filming, boats following, it was pretty cool.
Don't apologize for that. Don't apologize for that. That we've all had moments where we say things that may not, maybe taken out of context, and that one has been. And of course, people do pick on you for that. But again, you've learned this, right? You put yourself on camera, you're putting a target on your back, whether you like it or not. And
I think I answered the lady, like, I get it. I hate, because I don't. And although I feel pretty powerful some days, like, I just can't even imagine saying it. That's what's so bizarre. But it was hot, and it was long days, and, they had changed the focus to all about me. And once, I was told, that I would, like, pretty much step up and be the main character, it was like, all right, like, but you still didn't know how it was going to turn out. I mean, you had people wanting you to do it backwards and forwards and here and there. And you're just like, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Once you saw the first show, you wish you would have done so many things different, because they've been trying to do this for years and it never worked, so it was like, did you do it all again for nothing? You didn't know.
Right. So give us a little bit of a timeline as to how long did they film? Like, what did it take to go
They were
from
here for a
start?
few months. And then my last, they were doing the last episode that we filmed was going to be the first show.
Okay.
And so once that it became about me overcoming obstacles, I wanted to make sure that the clients, were like okay with it. Like everybody knows me, pretty much knows my past, but the HGTV allowed us to go back 2 years, but because me and my sister are in the same network, that would also qualify for any of her stuff too. And so we actually, had a huge client that was our grand finale, was that actual buyer. And the night before, I just wanted to check in and I just said, hey, I just wanted to call and introduce myself and to say thank you for helping us represent Lake of the Ozarks. I don't know if my sister has told me much about me. And she's like, just that you're an amazing realtor and that you sell a lot of stuff. And I said, well, I do. I said, but with all that, I've overcome many obstacles. I went to college, yada, yada, yada. And, it does bring it up. Like they are trying to change demographics. And she said it was no problem. But within an hour from somebody coming home, the network was called or the director. And,
You're there.
I forgot to forward my calls, but, and they canceled because again, nobody knew how the show was.
Gotcha.
Nobody knew how the show was going to turn out, and these people worked for attorneys, you know what I mean? And so they were like, yeah, no thanks. So the people packed up and left, and they were supposed to be here for 3 days, and they literally packed up, and I didn't know what they meant. But 2 weeks later, the director, how do you go wrong with a guy named Sven? Sven, the director, called and said, hey, we've got your clients, they are up to 2 million or whatever that they were. And we're going to bring a camera crew of 7 people and we're coming for 3 days. So like you can have your grand finale, which was the first episode.
Okay.
And so you're like, great, like, because you didn't know how it was going to turn out. But yeah, so people were picked last minute when there were cancellations. And from there, that's where a lot of the negative things came because I think people were asked, hey, can you help? Because at that point, they were just now trying to put on a TV show.
Right.
And by people, do you mean buyers?
Yes, sir.
So can we rewind this even further back, Ramsey? And can I how did this even all come together and how did you as the agents get chosen?
Well, in 2017, after I had went to Rocky Miller called, I got to go to the Capitol and help change licensing laws. Somebody had gotten a hold of my story and wanted to do something at the lake. And at that point, they wanted me to pick 5 of my closest people, which if I was going to represent the lake, right, you're going to pick Gary Pruitt. You're going to pick Fred Ross of Big Thunder. I picked my husband, the deer farmer, right, to get my hunting and fishing down, myself, and I can't remember who the other person, but we went through, if you could imagine, 3 separate hour interviews that these men took their time out of busy days. And on just the fact to help me, those people didn't need any recognition, or fame. And right when the contract started going out, COVID hit and everything got shelved. And then Bravo came, and then MTV came, and then the Housewives, and I actually had recommended the Swifts, right? Just because they're all freaking beautiful. I mean, they're gorgeous people. And if you're going to have a little chunker in there like me, I need to get beautiful babes too, right? Like, I'm not slow. If the show is going to work, like, we need, somebody not in a size, 15 plus. So, but they were, trying to do something on their own show, that they thought that was going to be successful, and, Mike even called and I said, I just wish you would have done it. And he's like, Peg, congratulations. We just picked the wrong pony, but it wasn't enough just for the real estate. Everybody, even way back then, it was the story of coming out of prison, overcoming obstacles, and truly, kicking ass. Like, I just don't talk about it. I do about it. I give back. I help. And it's turned out pretty well. The joke is now that I don't drink and do drugs, all I do is work, and I'm pretty good at it.
That's all right. You hit the nail on the head. People don't, especially the community and social media and keyboard warriors, they don't understand what it takes to put this stuff on. They don't understand the legal side of it. I talked to a couple of the Swift girls after one episode, and they said they were like hunkered down in a garage during filming of one of the Chimney Point houses. And they were talking about that. And like all these Facebook people, it doesn't show the lake. It doesn't we're not making, Ozark with 7 seasons or whatever. They're making a 30 or an hour long show trying to show Lake of the Ozarks, trying to show the characters, trying to show the buyers, the property. And I applaud you because I would have asked later, and I know Jeff was gonna, but your story and what you overcame, and I know you've never been one to shy around it. I'll give you a little backstory why I know that. A couple of years ago, there was another similar pay-to-play model that was coming around the lake that wanted agents to put on their TV show. You know what I'm familiar with, right?
Yes,
Peggy?
sir.
And someone that I know was there on behalf of another office, and they said, I didn't know this, but one agent stood up and said, I've been to prison and I'm better now and I've done right. And they said it was you. And so it's always awesome to see you just say that was then, this is now. So from me to you, I applaud you.
It does. Thanks. It, it's just, you just have to do it. There's not really too much choice. But yeah, it's definitely pretty exciting to focus. I never really got to see what God built me for because I have really been pretty messed up my whole life. So to come back and get a second chance and to be sharp and be able to help people in my own backyard and create a good example, for my family and my son, and to give back to a community, that I feel like I took a lot from at a younger age, feels really good.
You're born and raised there?
I moved when I was 4. So it's all I can really remember. But yeah, from kindergarten to graduation. Yeah, I don't have the Feral Boys claim to fame that I was birthed here, but 4 years old is pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. Let's tie some lake fun to it. You came here when you were 4. We don't need to know how old you are now.
29. 29.
Right.
29 plus.
I'm 54.
Okay. So I'm 40. Jeff, I'm 41 actually. Jeff, you're
46.
Give me a place that you remember as a kid at Lake of the Ozarks. I'll give you mine afterwards.
We grew up in Four Seasons. My dad worked there. So I babysat there. My husband was a bellman. I mean, Four Seasons is where you hung out, all winter. You watched movies, you bowled. So definitely Four Seasons holds some pretty cherished, moments. The old movie theater. I think I got my first, one of my first kisses. I don't know, behind that, but the old movie theater is pretty cool. But the Sky Ferry, depending on how far you went back, I mean, we went over a septic and thought it was the coolest thing ever.
So for me, there's two, Angels Pasta, I forget the actual name, but Angels over off of Double E was a little Italian restaurant, and then my mom used to take us to Bayou Bill's.
Oh yes,
Bayou Bill's prior to the Shady Gators days.
It's so funny that you say Bayou Bills that, you guys, I never thought I could really get pregnant, but I was out on a date and got a burger and threw up. And John Burt, who we became like best friends, partners in Ozark Village, and he said, "You're pregnant." And I said, no, I'm not. And sure enough, that I found out I was pregnant over a Bayou Bills burger with mustard.
Wow. That's kind of cool. I was, when you said grew up in Four Seasons, and we talk about with the toll bridge, because today we'll talk about that too. Today, the toll bridge is no longer a toll bridge. It's just a bridge.
That's a proud moment for real.
Yes.
And the foresight of the people that did it. Bravo.
Right. And we grew up off Double E, off of Boot Circle was where we had our cabin, and going to Bayou Bills from Highway Double E back in the day, all the way out to the end of HH and Bittersweet and all that. So it's always just memories I've had as a kid. Shooter's 21.
That was a trek for you going to Bayou Bills.
My mom
that
would
was
do
an
it
adventure.
every chance she could. My single mom worked her tail off and had us a little cabin at the lake, and I just vivid memories of Bayou Bills. So,
it was great.
Yeah.
And that's where the true NFT party started, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I don't know if anybody knows that little fun fact.
Jeff, do you?
No, tell me about that. Explain that.
NFT.
The NFT party at the end of the year started at Bayou Bills.
For those that don't know what NFT stands for, because a lot of people think it's like got something to do with artwork and technology and crypto. So NFT's got a different explanation at the Lake of the Ozarks.
No freaking tourists.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're being politically correct.
Well, I got my F bucket now, and so I'm using it, you guys. What an amazing, strangers brought me the most kindest gift that they made. So nobody could ever regret doing what I did. It was, I was even telling my husband, even if there was a second season, things would have to be different, of if I'm going to be representing it now that I know what I know. I was hoping I could fix it because we had a lot of good candidates that actually bought and that should have been used.
Right.
And it's hard, I'm just saying, to try to pretend an area is diverse when it might not be as much. And so, it's a hard sell. And so I'm sure between that and between people knowing that somebody didn't buy something and that they said they did, and we'll leave the last one out. But yeah, there was just lots of little things that I think if could have been tightened up, would have been great. But they just rolled in. They rolled in and they filmed so many different ways so they wouldn't have to come back. And then they just sent it all in, and what you see is what you get.
That's interesting. I want to go back to the NFT thing too, first of all, because it's interesting for those that aren't Lakers. It's really not as many tourists by the definition of tourists. It's mostly second homers. And I wouldn't consider a second homer a tourist.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they should no longer exist because our seasons have merged and it's like been over. There was a time back in the day that when the season ended, it truly died. I mean, we were a community that you had to make your living 5 months out of the year or you didn't survive. If our mayor wouldn't mandated that we were open during COVID, that Lake of the Ozarks would literally be dead. And so it's just a different time. So after when the season was over and everybody left, everybody freaking left. I mean, there was no, oh, somebody was coming back on the weekend to go hit. I mean, everything pretty much back in the day shut down.
Yeah. I remember it. I remember it well. And now, you know,
as respect for what everybody did to make the places run, everybody shut down and went to Bayou Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was of like being the original cool cat along with Doc Knockers. Tony I didn't know that he's been around for 30 years and says that he is the longest water bar on the lake that's still open.
Yeah, it sounds about right. I mean, I worked for Budweiser for a long time, so I've been in and out of all of them and seen all the changes and met all those folks, and it's been really cool to see. But if we can just figure out December to February how to find some events that make us a little more, we'll be year round. That's all we're missing, right?
And you know, I do try to find other avenues to win in just real estate. I think, you know, if we are truly going to be wealthy, we have to have multiple streams of income and different ways to produce income. And so whether it is here in Lake Ozark or some other way, whatever that is, you know, you just got to kind of figure it out. I've been grooving along the whole time. Like every year, I didn't think I could do any better, you guys, but like through the grace of God, I think in 2022, I did $57 million.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's awesome. It's awesome though.
And so
you got a story.
There you go.
You got a story, that's for sure. Jeff, anything else you got for Peggy?
Yeah, I do. I want to know. So you guys were talking about the old days, which I am not a part of that. I've only been going to the lake for about 13 years. But I want to know, I've done this post and I've asked in my audience, what do you prefer, the old days or the new times? Because so many Ozarkers hate the evolution and the growth of the lake. I personally love it and I intend to capitalize on it. And, you know, we intend to move there full time. And I think the lake today from what it was 5 years ago is night and day. I think the lake, what it's going to be 5 years from now is going to be night and day from what it is today. So Peggy, I'd love to know, like, what's your opinion? You've been there for 50 years. What is your take on then and now?
You know, I think after all the parents grew up at the lake, they knew what they weren't going to do with their children and went total opposite. I think growth has always been, you know, expected at the lake. And I understand that people don't want change, but I truly think that the lake is only going to be for the wealthy and for the people that are lucky enough to call it home. And by choice or, I mean, I hate it for your $500,000 buyer that you can't come to the lake and get a great home anymore. That hurts my heart, truly, that COVID priced a lot of families out. But I understand the natural progression of life and pricing and increasing stuff. So it's bittersweet, right? You hope people do it with respect. You hope people still smile and are nice to you at the gas stations. And, you hope that we bring our way of life to the people that come and that we can just be one damn big happy family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
I love what you described. You described when you took the cat or the crew in, and to me and Ramsey, like that, we're Midwesterners. That's normal. That's what you do. But for people that come from the coasts and come from different areas that aren't the
Oh my gosh,
Midwest,
you guys, I do it with my clients. People wonder why I'm successful. I'm like, come on over, let's go jump. And they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I mean, nobody cares. A boat floats, take it. It's a jet ski. You know, take your driver safety course. And if you can show me, you guys can go jump on the jet ski. I don't mind. I'm not greedy, and pass on blessings. So if there's anything that I can do for you too, you know, just feel free to do a shout out and I'd be happy to help.
smart.
well, I know. We have a mutual friend, Nathan Warson,
I was
and
going to say that. I was
yes.
like, darn it, I didn't. But again, it's like of Nathan. Nathan is dear and close to my heart and is always a special story. But thankfully, like, you know, like I'm on probably number 25 of just giving back to help, because some people just need a break. And just like I did, right? Somebody gave me a break. I was just lucky enough to have a good family to go home to and smart enough to cling on. But, you know, my motto is I don't have enough to hold you up, but I have enough to pick you up.
That's pretty awesome. Well, you're a great example of that. I got one more thing for you, and then when you're finished, I got to make sure you follow one rule, but we'll talk about that in a second. I want to touch on this last episode that aired this morning. I don't think there's anywhere in the MLS where we can search for a cheer room.
Right?
How the hell would you have done that? Because I was watching the episode and just thinking, I've been around the lake, I've been at a lot of these houses, and I don't think I've ever seen one for a cheer room.
No, but if you would see a frog, you would know,
Yeah.
right? If that you had a frog, that you would have extra. But Ramsey, you know of being knowledgeable around the lake of when you go into houses, that's what a local experienced agent would be like, oh, you know, that freaking gym that, you know, has of make it, you know, a cheer room. And so that is a difference of, you know, of somebody that is in a lot. But again, it wouldn't matter because nobody had a choice. We can't forget that. You know, Gerardo did amazing because he didn't have a choice. None of us did. Nobody got to pick the houses that we presented. You know, yes, we got to pick some, you know, like 46 Karst, you know, but even the little dome house, those weren't the buyers for that dome house. And so you're just like, how crazy is that? And whoever thought it was a good idea?
So wait a second. So you're saying that HGTV picked the houses and then you guys had to find somebody that
No,
would
I'm saying like I picked the dome house. It was my listing.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
But at that time it hadn't sold.
Mm-hmm.
So they used it. What I thought, because I never paid attention and nobody cares, is one of the dummy houses. You know, you pick two and you know, like this is the
Gotcha.
one. And so being so busy, I never really paid attention to who did what, or if the person actually bought, or if they didn't. I was just as surprised as when the ex-baseball player bought than anybody. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, even I was confused. I'm like, oh, go Amanda. You know, I didn't realize that, you know, he bought it, but he didn't.
Right.
You know, and so then why? And so then the next day, you know, of course, you know, with his big news flash, we were notified the next day that we were moved to the 9 a.m. slot. And, you know, really, I feel got cut for nothing. And I'm not saying that we are cut. I know that we don't get our renewals until May, but you know, being the street girl that I am, when you go from prime time at 9 and then all of a sudden you go to the next day at 9 a.m., you know, it doesn't make anybody feel warm and fuzzy and think they're going to, you know, get an extension that's going to blow your socks off.
Well, I've enjoyed it. I know we've
You're
been
so
able
good.
we've been able to have some good banter. We've been able to reach a new audience with some of this stuff and
You
just
guys, I
have
think it's
fun
going
with
to
it.
help for years to come, right?
I
Like of
I
just
think
a
so.
forever HBO Max, of people talking about it, and of the people that loved it, truly did love it, and the people that didn't like it were paid not to. I mean, of you got to almost like you. Here goes Ramsey. Did Jonas Farrell ever get that house? I'm like, oh, isn't Ramsey the little shit disturber? And boy, it
Oh
got
yeah.
people going. It's fake. They didn't. I was like, oh my gosh. But yes, they did buy that house, and
I
I'm super happy for them.
It was nice because Jonas kind of trolled everybody on Facebook this week and put a picture under their covered porch and him smoking a cigar and the family hanging out. And I thought vindication. Like
Yes,
like the shit stirrer in me loved that he went out there and did that. So
yes.
well, Peggy, I appreciate it. You've been great. I always enjoy chatting with you. When you do leave the room, so to speak, leave your phone on and let it fully upload, okay? Because
Okay.
it's running behind a little bit to get caught up in the cloud. So when we're finished, but before you go, anything you want to say, anything we can do to help you?
No, you guys, just that I did my best to bring the highlight to the lake and, to help all our businesses and, to thrive, and that there was never, ever bad intent or no intent of harm, just to bring a good highlight to our awesome lake.
Well, Jeff, anything you got for Peggy before she goes?
No, Peggy, thank you so much for being a great representation. Thank you for being an inspiration. I think that there's more to that's going to come from this for you and for others, because I think a lot of people, everything is rainbows and puppy dogs online. It's all filtered. It's all perfect. And it's not. And I'm glad that they chose you. And I'm glad that we got to have the opportunity to talk to you, because I think this alone is really going to change a lot of people's perspectives. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Peggy.
Okay, I have to stay on. I have to remember to listen.
You just have to hit stop. Just don't close the app. Let it do all its stuff.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye. Man, Peggy's great, isn't she?
That was great, man. That was fantastic. I have a newfound respect. So if somebody else doesn't, then I'd be surprised. I think that's gonna change perspectives. So I hope a bunch of people watch this.
Well, I have a saying, and it goes back to college. And if they don't like you or they don't agree with you, fuck them and feed them fish heads. So that's something. But I
was just gonna say fuck them, but I'll go with the fish heads too. We can throw that in there. All right.
Fuck them and feed them fish heads. But no, Peggy's got a great story. It was great to have her on. I do want to touch base on a few of the things about the episode. I hinted at the beginning, but we actually got some clarity. I would love to know, and if we ever get Gerardo on, we actually got a Gerardo. They weren't able to get this house. It was finally something that was cool.
Yeah.
But no, I've just got a few things. One little Easter egg that I found in the show that many might not notice: the Dome House had a CD holder. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, full on, like all the CDs in their cases stacked on top of each other, and it was kind of cool to see that little bit of a nostalgic. That was an amazing house. I remember when Peggy listed that one. Like
surprisingly big. 4,000 something square foot. But here's what I want to know: Did they get it? Because they were going to write an offer. Did they get the house?
I don't believe they did, unless there's some other things on the back end. But that one actually finally sold for $850,000.
And it was listed for.
It started at like 1 point.
But I mean, on the show, it was under $1 million, wasn't it?
It was right $999.
And they were going to offer, $950, right?
Right. Yeah. It was listed at $980, and they were going to offer $950, I believe.
I mean, I will say this of this episode, and I texted you this morning. I said I feel like all three buyers in this episode actually seemed legit. And I didn't get that feeling in any other episode. Like some of them just seemed a little staged. And these three actually seemed like legit buyers buying at the lake.
And I think Peggy kind of hinted on that. And now we have from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Peggy's not a horse. I'm not calling her that. I'm just saying like we know a little bit more about how it worked. And credit to the internet's keyboard warriors out there who called it like that. I wasn't going to accuse because I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know if that's how things were going to go down. But no, it was. I joked with Peggy about the whole finding a cheer room. Like, I don't think I would have ever thought of the garage and considered that as an option. Or you can't search for, I don't know how many lakefront homes have a cheer room right by the water or a room that would work unless you get way up there. And for $750,000, which I'll go into that too. That house sold for, I can't find it in my notes. 5, I don't know. I'll look it up. Either way. It sold for $590K. $590. So that house originally bought for $490, flipped to see what we saw, the nice shower, all that stuff, listed at $650, sold for $590. But another Easter egg. Did you see where they started out the show?
Was that? No, that wasn't the Gravois Mills one.
No, it was, they met, Gerardo met them at a winery.
Oh, at the winery.
Yeah.
Yeah, which actually I thought was an interesting statement. He said it's not known for its wine. There's actually quite a few wineries at the lake.
Right.
And that was, I almost said at first when he said that, I'm like, dude, come on, man. You're really showing that you're not from here because there's more wineries than you realize.
Right. Seven Springs Winery is where they met.
Yeah.
And that one's actually currently for sale.
Oh, no shit.
Not officially listed, but the owner, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he would love to sell it. I don't remember the price. Actually, you go ahead and say, because I do want somebody to understand what a winery at the lake might cost.
What's the what comes with it?
All of the ground, all of it.
Which is how many acres?
Give me just a second. I can look. But
where is Seven Springs?
Seven Springs is down Y Road, so Lynn Creek, just past Big Surf.
Okay. All right. So it would depend on the amount of acreage.
So let me see here.
So it comes with the grape plants.
Yes, and it's a functioning winery, wedding venue, like. It is ready to rock and roll. It's a beautiful property. I don't know if you've ever been down there, but I'm trying to find Mike's post on Facebook. Give me just a second. He must have deleted it. Maybe that means he got it sold. While
you're looking at, okay, go ahead.
He said, I'm looking for someone who's, he wants somebody, never mind, this is the wrong post. Either way, he's got it listed. He's pretty open to selling it. Great location, ready to rock and roll. So sorry, I don't have more for you on that one, but it is there.
That was very anticlimactic of you.
Well, either way, it's a beautiful place, and they've got like there's a lot. Hold on, you put me on the spot here. I didn't even think of that part.
You put yourself on the spot.
Well, I wrote a little note that said Seven Springs, and then I remembered what I was supposed to think of it. Hold on a second here.
You write your notes often?
Do I? Oh, yeah. I just never follow through with them. Seven Springs Winery. Okay, so Seven Springs Winery, one of the parcels is 150 acres.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's got to be well into the millions then.
Yeah. We can't show it on here and there's another parcel that's 5 acres. So you're looking at 160-ish acres, depending on what he owns. But beautiful spot, cool place. I dealt with Mike back when I was a Budweiser guy, so always cool to get down there. A couple other notes I have. So I want to talk about the house that Sierra met Gerardo, and the dock didn't have any water. So that was over in Osage Beach. Get this. I want to talk about this house specifically so people have a better idea. Guess what that house sold for in 2017?
Oh, that was a pretty small house. 2017, deep in a cove. That was what area of the lake was that in?
Osage Beach. Osage Beach.
Man, I want to say that would probably have sold back then for like 2017, 350.
85,000.
Holy shit.
Now, granted, it wasn't updated like what you saw on the TV show. But get this. That house in 2017 sold for $85,000. You heard that right. $85,000. Guess what it sold for in 2019?
350.
215.
Shit.
So in 2 years, it appreciated $120,000 ish. And then these folks listed it, Sierra listed it, and they had to pull it off the market because that's actually an Airbnb. These folks listed it for $450K.
Wow.
So from 2017 at $85K to now worth around $450,000, give or take.
Wow. What the hell was I thinking at 350?
But prime example though of the water there. The water depth brings that down.
It's not super uncommon in deep coves, but the other thing is like Gerardo didn't have that right. He made the comment like 3 months out of the year. They don't pull the lake back until December or January. So you typically have decent water up until Christmas or after, and then the water levels would now back up probably or any day now. It's usually mid-April. So it's not as – I mean, that to me was kind of a misconception discussion on the show, which tells me they were filming during a January to May timeframe.
Right. Yeah. Well, we had this conversation this weekend actually with some out-of-towners. We're typically full pool or really, really close to it by Memorial Day. We've already seen it come up. I believe, we had some rains last week.
It came up two feet just with the rain alone.
Right. So, but yeah, that was a cool little house over there. I did see a conversation about mini splits that kind of spawned.
I wanted to bring that up. Because the fact that buyer hadn't recognized that's like becoming like the hip, most popular version because they're so efficient. And I laughed when she said that. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. How do you not know what that? I mean, I agree that it didn't look great on the wall. It's an interesting spot to put one, but it's your freaking master bedroom. I mean, it's about comfort, not about freaking a painting. Who gives a shit?
Right.
My opinion.
No, that one. I actually really thought those folks I thought they were over the location, and they clearly weren't. They loved the house, but the location.
You're talking about the one in Gravois Mills?
Yeah. The one out there. And you got to understand Gravois Mills, if you're not familiar with the lake, Gravois Mills is like it's a budding place is how I will describe it. Because part of Gravois Mills, you could be really close to Lori, have a couple nice restaurants, good grocery store, all of that sort of thing. But then other side of Gravois Mills, like the Rocky Mount side, that's considered technically Gravois Mill, very rural, very older lake homes, cabin-y, weekend getaways. So it takes a special kind of person that wants to be in Gravois Mills. Beautiful. It's great. There's good restaurants by water. I mean, Coconuts is over there, Lake Burgers over there, Tap and Grill, the new Big Dicks, like no shortage of things to do, but year-round living, a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get up there because I was familiar with the lake. I'm down in the Big Niagara, so that the Gravois Mills arm, the Gravois arm is like another state away by water. We've been to
Yeah,
Coconuts once by water. We did the first year we had a boat, and that's the last time we did it.
it's a trek, ain't it?
Phew. Yeah, I mean, just like going to Big Dicks by water, it's just so far. That's the thing about the lake, you know. It's is if you're not familiar with it, it is huge. It is massive,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like multiple cities really,
It's
multiple locations really, and it's really just one location.
it's like going if you're from St. Louis, so it would be like going from St. Louis City to St. Charles.
Farther,
Further?
yeah. St. Louis City
Like,
to St. Charles, it would be like going from Jefferson County to St. Charles, maybe.
okay,
But
Jefferson
e-
County.
but even then, everything within St. Louis is basically within an hour, which is unique for a big city, but that's a Midwestern big city. And at the lake, you're probably greater than an hour. Think about going from Bagnell to Truman.
It's
You're
90 miles.
yeah, well by water. That's as the
Right.
basically damn near as the crow flies. Like, but going by land, shit.
Mm.
That's
It's pretty crazy.
yeah, yeah.
You got anything else you want to chat about with this episode in particular?
No, I just want to know if the people got the circular home. So I'm gonna have to text Peggy and ask her. But I
They
think
did not. She said they didn't.
they didn't. I
She
didn't
said
hear that.
that they knew that wasn't the buyers for them. That house sold for 850, but it was
That's
a
right.
different agent.
That's
It
right.
wasn't that agent that sold it. So I'm pretty certain. Now I'll tell you one thing. I think that of the show that they did miss out on, you had the duo of Justin and Jonas, but that duo of Peggy and Sierra together, like that would have been a pretty cool avenue to explore. And I don't feel like they did because didn't they? Okay, this is another thing. Didn't they show Peggy? Sierra met Peggy at a house, but then Sierra vanished and Peggy vanished. Did that not happen?
When on this show, on this episode?
This episode, Sierra met Peggy
Yeah,
because it was one of Peggy's listings.
she was doing that was the Gravois Mills home that she showed to the older couple.
No, because then Peggy met the Gravois, the other. So
No,
it
that
was
was
that one.
that was Sierra. Sierra was their agent. Sierra went out there to see the house before she showed it to them, so Peggy could kind of give her the once over, and then she showed it to that couple because she thought they were going to buy it, but because they loved it, they everything they said, and then they said, "Oh, but the location sucks."
Right. Okay. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
It's been a busy day.
That's
A
all
lot
right.
going on.
That's all right. That's all right. It's been good. I would love to know, for those of you that stuck with this entire time, we intend to continue to do these interviews. Did you like this? Did you like how we did that? And should we continue? Even if the show doesn't continue, I think we should make the show more about that going forward. And we should continue with the podcast in addition to obviously the long forms that we're already creating about lifestyle and whatnot.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it. I think we have a plethora of people to have on. There's even things too. I think, all we knew is we were having Peggy on. None of it was, we didn't prep Peggy. We didn't have questions for her. We didn't do any of that. So we got Sierra confirmed for next week, and then we're going to get Jonas, probably try to get Justin. And then
Separately or together?
I think we got to have together. I think they work well together. I think they each bring something that the other doesn't have, and I don't know that we need two separate ones. I don't know. We'll see. But then I would love to get Gerardo on. I think Gerardo, just a cool cat, good dude. So I'd love to get him on. We know we're going to get the shitbox lady on. Just a matter of when we're going to do it.
The Strix. We're going to get the
Strix.
Strix. We're going to interview the Kaiser who had one of the listings, Craig Kaiser.
Right. Yep. That's all the way back in episode 1, man. It feels like
No, that was 2 or 3. But
Oh,
yeah.
It was 2. It was episode 2. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. If you guys want, if you're listening, watching, whatever, there's things we haven't covered about Lake of the Ozarks that you want to chat about. Like, we're always open to adding stuff. I'm excited to kind of keep this thing rolling. And I think Peggy kind of hinted at it. I'm not feeling real confident about season 2. Your thoughts?
Agreed.
Season 2, yes or no? As of
No.
right now, no.
I think the fact that they moved it from, I wouldn't call it prime time like she called it, but a better slot, which is any time after basically 6 p.m. I would say prime time is 6, 7, 8 p.m. 9 p.m. solid, but not great. But 9 a.m. is like a death sentence, probably.
9 a.m. is like Saved by the Bell and reruns of Baywatch.
It's freaking, it's game show time. It's when you watch Price is Right and those kind of shows.
You know? Yeah, or when you just get out of bed for some folks.
Or get out of the gym in other people's cases.
Hey, we're doing good, man. Like,
proud of you.
I think we've only missed like one official gym day this whole time.
I'm proud of you.
So, and I'm getting like strong.
You're ripped. You're going to be ripped.
Yeah, I don't know about ripped. But, man, next week we're going to have a good show. Guys, if you've made it this far and you like what you're seeing, please give us a share, a like, a comment, something. If you're a business that wants to partner with us on something fun like this, that phone is always on. Call that up. Ring-a-ling and ling, ding, dong, ding. Let's have some fun with this. So
yeah,
I'm probably just going to go tomorrow and just back and forth on the toll bridge. I'm just going to just make the circle, like back and forth. Like,
I already posted about it. I already posted about it on TikTok, so it's already there.
Well, man, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk at you soon. And when are you coming down again? When are we going to see you?
This weekend. Be down this weekend.
Oh, yeah. I got to work. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.